Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April 2023. I hope you are well and happy birthday to you early degree Taurians that may be out there. I'm using the Tower of the Abyss for you today. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. If the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there is an extended that you can access at the end. That is the first link in the description box. The second link in the description box is to the 6-month overviews that I did for each of the signs. They run from January to June 2023. Obviously, we are somewhat through that period now, so I've reduced them down to half price. If you have not had a chance to check them out and you're interested, then please do feel free to avail yourself of that link. The third link is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over in Circle. All of the extended content is over there. There are lots of benefits to joining. Not least classes that I've started running on all sorts of different modalities too. Been getting people in to come and do those, which is awesome. And there's an absolutely sterling number of people, a sterling group of people over there. So if you fancy coming and hanging out, you know what to do. Let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Taurus. I'm inclined to think this is going to be quite a dramatic month for you because I did obviously, before I do any of the readings, I do a meditation, and it was really quite intense. It was slow, but it was very, very intense. There was nothing specific that came up, but the feeling was profound. So, let's have a look. What's going on with Taurus, please? Oh, there's the card that wanted to hop out. So, we have the Emperor in your recent past. Tell me about current energy, please. Ooh. We have the Two of Swords, and then what's going on? It's coming towards Taurus for April. I knew it. I saw it, actually, in the meditation. It's the Tower. Now, don't panic. I know that some people get very upset when they see the Tower, but the Tower is a good thing. No, the Tower is always a good thing. Whether or not we can appreciate it at the time, different matter. But where the Tower takes us is always good, because the energy of the Tower, you know, it's ruled by Scorpio, and a bit by Aries as well, but mainly for me it's a Scorpio card. It's about transformation. So when the Tower appears, something is changing that is taking you from the route that you're on and guiding you slightly, maybe dramatically, in a different direction. We'll get some cards out and see what it's about, but we do have the Nine of Swords at the bottom of the deck too. Now, I'm going to flip this around. Oh, make sure I press the right button. And now I can bitch about the camera, because I love to have something to bitch about. Sorry that the cards are a little bit washed out. It's the sun. I can't really do anything about that. So, we have the Nine of Swords at the bottom of the deck, but we do have that Taurian card of the Hierophant underneath it, or the Wise One as it is known in this deck. So, I actually feel like this Nine of Swords is the thing that breaks with the Tower. And I'll wait until I've got some clarifiers on the table to confirm that. But that's certainly my feeling, so please don't panic. Now, I'm going to use the Edmund Dulac Tarot to clarify. I haven't used this very much, but I was sitting here after the meditation, and I checked which deck wanted to jump out. And then I was thinking about clarifiers, and I didn't even try and see if it was one of these on the table, because the box just popped up and I was like, it's this one today. So, absolutely beautiful deck. And thank you to one of my Circle subscribers for bringing this to my attention, because I had not known about it at all. So, let's give it a proper shuffle and see what this is about here. Could I please have some clarifiers for the Emperor? Well, we have the Nine of Wands there, and Emperor. Okay, and we have, what is that, the Hermit. Cool. Tell me about the Two of Swords, please. Ooh, we have the Ace of Wands, and we have the Ten of Pentacles. That's looking really rather good. Taurus, we like that very much. And what about the Tower? Why is the Tower here? So, we have the High Priestess, we have the Nine of Swords, and we also have the Knight of Wands, with the Eight of Wands at the bottom of the deck. There's something wholly transformational about this, Taurus. This is not a quiet month for you. Now, whether that activity, shall we put it that way, whether the activity and the challenges would be readily obvious to someone who wasn't particularly close to you, I'm not sure. Because we do have the Hermit and we do have the High Priestess. So we've got these two cards that speak very much of the internal journey. It could be that this is something that goes right under the radar of most people. But the changes in you this month will be profound. So I'm going to pull out another deck because I feel like this is probably going to be quite an intense reading and I just want it there just in case. But what we've got is an escalation. Now, the escalation is possibly the thing that might be a little bit uncomfortable. And I say this because we've got the Nine of Swords and we've got the Eight of Wands at the bottom of the deck. The Eight of Wands does talk about communication, and sometimes it can be, fast-moving information that comes our way. That could be by email. It could be something that you pick up on social media or something like that. But it feels a little flat as an interpretation for me because of what I feel going on for you this month. More it feels like you being driven to a place of discomfort that becomes so uncomfortable that you make a change, right? That's the broad premise of the reading as we see it here, as I see it here. So underneath that Eight of Wands, we've got the Devil, yeah. So the Devil deals with illusions, right? The Devil deals with manipulating us, metaphorically speaking, into a loss of perspective, right? Where we feel overwhelmed and we feel like things are a little bit too much and my God, will we ever escape this? But what he likes to do is make us feel trapped. What he likes to do is to make us feel like we have no power to change anything at all, right? And then we just capitulate to the situation. Now, there seems to be an escalation in these energies for you here this month, but the Tower then is the breaking point. And it doesn't have to be something that is deeply uncomfortable. Like I said, I actually feel like this is going to be really, really good for you. because everything else is so positive. Like the Tower can be a really, really good thing. But let's start over here and we'll have a chat about these cards, right? So we start in your recent past and we've got the Emperor. And I've been definitely getting some Emperor vibes from Tauruses in the last few weeks. You're getting on top of your shit, which is how I like to see the Emperor. It's Aries energy. Weirdly, sideways, I get a kind of Capricorn vibe off this also. I'm not sure why. I think that's because he always used to come up to represent my ex-husband for a long time. Not so much anymore, but he did. And he deals with issues of control and, creating often, I feel, stability. Because he rules kind of structure, and maybe this is where the Capricornian kind of vibe comes in, structure and order and rules, because there has to be a certain amount of rulership over an empire so that it works in a cohesive way. And I think that what Taurus has been doing is getting their shit in order. Like we've been talking for the last couple of months about how the direction of travel that you are engaged in at the moment is not one that you can refer to a map to, or for, rather, because you seem to be in the act of creating the map as you go, and for the benefit of other people, almost certainly, although that may not be quite as obvious just yet. So the Emperor is kind of getting ourselves into a position of authority, a point of authority, whether this is on something that you do. So, if you're, I hate to be, cliched, but there's a reason for it. If you're teaching something of some description, Taurus is a natural born teacher. I'm not trying to stereotype you here. It's an innate skill that you're born with, and it's something that a lot of Taurians tend to gravitate towards. It could be that you're starting to achieve a level of success and visibility within what you do. But if you're not a teacher, it could be just the way that you are approaching the structure of your life at this point, right? There's a great deal of resolve here to fashion the world around you in a way that feels good to you. But we do have this Nine of Wands and the Hermit here. Now, these kind of bring it into the internal for me. I mean, with the Hermit, it's kind of obvious, and the message of the Hermit is all of the answers that you may need to any question you have to ask are to be found within you. But although it sounds like a very simple thing to do, that's actually quite a complex and abstract energy to explore properly. Because it's not like we can, go into our internal library and open a book. It's about the way that we approach our past situation. You know how I'm always talking about revisiting the narrative that we tell ourselves about the way that our lives have gone. Quite often the narrative that we grow up with is something that evolves in time and becomes something entirely different by the point at which we've spent some time really working on it. For example, I have a narrative about the kind of childhood that I had, and my experiences in my teens and my 20s and stuff like that. And for the longest time, that was characterized by a sense of victimization. Like, shit was just really, really hard all of the time. Now, at the grand old age of 42, I can look at these things and go, actually, these were incredibly valuable experiences. Would I want to go through them again? Certainly not. Would I want anybody else to go through them? Absolutely not. But the fact remains that I cannot change the facts of my experience, but I can change my understanding of the experience, right? So the Hermit isn't quite as straightforward as, what do I do about this? It's almost just like the tarot, right? You've got to explore the energies around it and start bringing in new perspectives. And then the narrative starts to change. When you change the narrative in the past, what you've got going on in the future is when you come back to yourself, you see yourself in a different light. Now, for Tauruses, that's had to be about exercising the level of compassion that you show yourself, so that it matches that which comes out from you so naturally for other people. Compassion, forgiveness, understanding. Sometimes it requires you putting some context into the experiences that you've had, But this Nine of Wands is quite interesting, because the Nine of Wands is about boundaries for me, right? It talks about resilience and all those sorts of things, right? So I feel like it's a little less about the need to employ boundaries, although likely this is something that you've got considerably better at in the last year or so than you ever were before. Like, that sense of self is starting to shore up really quite nicely in you, Taurus. I'm excited to see where you go with that. But this concept of resilience might be something that feels like it's being tested a little bit. And the way that it feels like it has been being tested in you is because of the visibility that is starting to increase. More people are aware of you. They might be more aware of what you do. But you certainly seem to be showing up on people's radar a little bit more. Less, background decoration, which for a long time is where Taurus was much more comfortable, not drawing attention to yourself for any reason, and a little bit more of a character in your own right. Let's get it clarified for the Nine of Wands. Oh, thank you. What do we have here? We have the Eight of Swords. And we have the Emperor card again. We spoke last month about the importance of self-doubt, right? And how it can actually increase your resolve. When you spend a bit of time doubting whether you're on the right path or not, like, it allows you to objectively explore what is going on with you. Now, we've moved into a time frame here, which is becoming increasingly surreal. If you've got half an eye on what is going on in the world, it does seem a little bit like everybody's lost their minds. But as we know, that is a distraction from the important work, which is the work that we're doing on ourselves and whatnot. I feel like this is actually speaking to that. The more that you are looking to control yourself, and it is very much yourself, the more these little feelings of I think for most of you it's been about the doubt in your own power. Like in some ways, you know you're extremely powerful and you know you're extremely strong, but it's always been from the position of endurance. I've spoken before about how there are certain signs, and I'm specifically thinking about Leo and Taurus here, where there's an innate knowledge that we are born strong. Like there's a strong character there. But the corollary of that is that certainly for the for the first part of our lives, we believe that struggle is the thing that validates us. So, or certainly at least validates that we're on the right path, right? We expect things to be hard, and if they're not hard, then we kind of side-eye them and we're a little bit untrustworthy, distrustful of it. And it's only when we get to a particular stage of age and experience where we realise that there is another way. Like it doesn't always have to be about us smashing our head against a wall or, trying not to buckle under the weight of all of the responsibilities that we have or, all of the trauma that we have in some cases. Sometimes it is sometimes it is possible for things to be easy. And this power that you have, Taurus, the exploration of how you utilise that seems to be the thing that you've had a bit of a wobble over, right? It's okay being powerful and strong when everything's going to shit and everything's falling down, because that's what we feel we're built for as these strong signs, right? But when we've done so much work on ourselves and we've cast away all of the things that have restricted us, then it's about taking those steps forwards in power. And that can be quite terrifying, actually. It can be utterly terrifying. And it seems like that's where you've been. That's where you've the place where you've been wobbling around. One of the things that I've noticed about humans, certainly in the society that we live in at the moment, the older that I've got, is the more that I've realised how little people are willing to take responsibility for their own actions. And it can be in the little things, but it can be in the really fucking big things as well. And we're seeing it all the time with people walking around with a chip on their shoulder, believing that everybody owes them something. It's the complete antithesis of personal responsibility. So we've got to this point where we've kind of pulled ourselves out from under the yoke of the conditioning and the trauma and the things that we've been experiencing our entire life. And we're now at a point where it's like, right, every step I take here is sovereign. Every step I take here is autonomous. There's nowhere to hide in this one, right? Certainly for you, you can't hide within the herd anymore because you're in the process of absolutely, standing out from the herd. True power requires true responsibility to wield it. And I think that these are the things that are starting to occur to you now. And so a little bit of fear, actually, I don't think is a bad thing at all. Particularly when it seems to have had you come round to strengthen your resolve, which is what I think we were talking about last month. So when we come into your current energy, we've got the Two of Swords here, and we've got the Ace of Wands and the Ten of Pentacles. And I really love this combination. The Ace of Wands is powerful, as all the aces are, in expressing the potential that we have to change our lives and live differently. The one suit does talk about creativity and passion and all those kind of things too. But for me, because it's fire and because it's wands, it's about those things plus life, living, your vital force, how that expresses itself. So it can be about how you express your creativity. And that doesn't have to be with a paintbrush in your hand. I have to hold my hands up and say I've got very little artistic ability at all, but I like to think that I kind of live quite creatively. I certainly seem to do everything on a 90-degree angle to what everybody else does, but that's how my creativity is expressed. Yours might come out in all sorts of different ways, but this arrival of the Ace of Wands actually feels like a level of passionate investment in, a Ten of Pentacles. We don't usually talk about the Ten of Pentacles in terms of a new goal as such, right? Although, you know, when an Ace of Pentacles appears, its ultimate goal, its ultimate destination is to be the Ten of Pentacles if everything proceeds correctly. Because it's the full expression. It's the point of culmination in the Pentacles suit. And it does feel like a new goal for you. We can talk about it in terms of stability and security and all those kind of things, but I think that your mind is turned a little less to that now. It's almost like a lesser consideration, where in the past you might have grabbed hold of it like this and been like, my security and my stability can't go anywhere. They have to be here, because if they go, I am terrified and I can't do anything. To security and stability is nice, but I'm rocking it in here first. So actually, when things become a little bit fluid around me, I'm not driven to this place of absolute panic. I can cope with this, I can flow with this, this is possible. And I can go about taking those steps to creating something around me that I'm not invested in, but that makes it nice, right? It brings some value to my life here. This seems to be like a reassessing of your goals. I mean, maybe what's gone on in the past here has actually been a tweaking of where you thought you were going versus what now feels right. I spoke in Capricorn season about, you know, there was a lot of work that people were doing on their essential core values, what they stood for, where they thought they were going, you know, and I feel like what we've got going on here is now a sense of that being something that you truly understand. Now, the Two of Swords is quite an interesting card there, because, I mean, often I talk about this card in terms of willful ignorance, right? It's the things that we don't see. And we don't see them because we can't see them, because our subconscious is going like, no, don't look that way. We're not going down that road internally. We're not looking at the thing. But I feel more with this imagery that Anatolian has used here with this. I'll just hold it up a little bit. We're seeing the face as a blank canvas, and in her hands she's got these two different masks, and she's kneeling on the swords. It's like, which one of these masks is me? It feels like a transition between early 2023 Taurus and what is going to be mid 2023 Taurus, because you're changing and everything's changing, and I think that you're very, very aware of how things are changing, even though the moves are very subtle at this point. You know, we're talking about very fine movements that you're making here, Taurus. Not wearing one mask or not wearing one face because we've outgrown it, but then at the same time there being a new face that we haven't yet quite got the confidence to put on. Right, tell me about this Two of Swords. Whoa, and hop straight out. Got the Nine of Wands. Fucking hell. And we've got the Judgment card. Yeah. And so here's the thing, Taurus. I think the energy is starting to build for you towards something, a really, really big change. We've got the Ace of Swords at the bottom of the deck there. Right? The Ace of Swords deals with the truth, ultimately. That's what it talks about. But it's the sword suit, so it rules everything to do with the mind and the intellect and our understanding of the truth as it is now presented to us, rather than the Ten of Swords as we were experiencing it before, because that minor arcana runs around in a circle essentially over and over again. What we hope is that we do a whole row and then we start again from the 10 down here. We start to the Ace and then we do it again, and we're always climbing upwards. It can talk about new perceptions, it can talk about new ideas, but it's an epiphany moment. It's the truth arriving and us seeing it clearly for the first time. Now, maybe talking about these really fine moves that you've been making, Taurus. Like, there's no crashing around a china shop here for you. It's more about tweaking how you're responding to things in front of you. And it's almost like there's this cause and effect that you have become aware of now, oblivious to, before. But when you change something in yourself, it doesn't matter how small it is, there is a corresponding change in the world outside of you. And because Taurus is, predisposed towards making things beautiful, I think. I really do feel like it's making things beautiful. You've been watching these actions, right? Maybe getting a little bit freaked out by what this means about how powerful you are, because you literally can change your life. You are literally behaving in a sovereign way. But all of these fine movements are creating the foundation for a big change. The Judgment card talks variously of lots of different meanings. They're multivalent, like all of the tarot cards are. It can talk about a second opportunity for things. But I'm not really getting that here in any more than a kind of abstract, here's a second opportunity to live life in a particular way. It feels more like big life-changing decisions. Perhaps there was an assumption on your part that what would continue here are those fine moves, where you catch a feeling and you look at it and you go, are you useful to me now? No, probably not. We're just going to push that out of the way just a little bit. We'll keep doing this fine adjustments that we're doing. You maybe considered the possibility that it was always going to be like that from this point on. But I feel like this has actually been creating somewhat of a plateau for you to stand on and go, actually, no, I'm ready for something bigger now. Right? I've got everything straight. I've got all my ducks in a row. My inner world and my outer world are aligning beautifully. I am aware of how my sovereign moves can influence the reality that I experience. And now I'm ready for something big. Now, I spoke about an escalation in discomfort. We've got the Nine of Swords here twice. It talks about overthinking, insomnia, worry, concern. I mean, it can talk about mental illness and all sorts of things at its worst. And it could be that in the month of April, there are a couple of things that happen that are triggering for you. I can't ignore the presence of the Tower and the High Priestess here together, indicating the possibility of some actually fairly immense spiritual awakening for you, Taurus. Those two cards together would speak very much of that. And it wouldn't be much of a surprise to see the Nine of Swords there with it either. Because I tell you what, people talk about spiritual awakenings. They say, I had my spiritual awakening in 2005 and it was beautiful and all these kind of things. No, not in my experience. Spiritual awakenings are extremely messy and raw, and they show you things that you didn't see before, and you're like, holy crap, how have I been functioning with all of this crap chuntering away inside of me? They're quite exposing. I think about this, it's arachnids that, well, they all do, don't they? I'm thinking more about tarantulas, right? They're basically wearing body armor all the time, right? They've got that exoskeleton and they have to shed it to grow. I've seen the videos of it, so it makes me feel ill, right? But they shed this skeleton, this exoskeleton that they own, right? And they sit around there being all kind of like white and soft before it starts to harden up again, right? But bigger, so that they've got more space. Now, I know it's not a particularly bovine comparison, but, cows and bulls don't shed their skin. There seems to be something here about you shedding your skin. Now, whether it's by way of some sort of spiritual awakening, possibly. But what if the Tower was the leaving behind of the overthinking? Because this Knight of Wands here, somewhat opposite to your energy, not strictly opposite, but in terms of the way that you move. I mean, this is Sagittarius, it's mutable fire. You are fixed earth. It's definitely you outside of your comfort zone somewhere. It's opportunistic. You know, it's like, oh, there's a cool thing, I'm going to do that. It's spontaneous. It is a lot of things that Taurian energy is not. But what if these fine moves that you've been making were a necessary precondition for you arriving at a place whereby if you wanted to be spontaneous, you could do it. If you wanted to really put yourself out there, you could do it. Because this double Nine of Swords feels a little less to me like something is happening at you and you feel terrified by it. It's overwhelming, you want nothing to do with it. It's a complete loss of perspective and just surrounded in this, you know, nightmare scene that we see here. What if it is a recognition of the Nine of Swords? Do you know what I'm saying? You know that the scene at the end of The Wizard of Oz? I've forgotten the name of the girl in it. What the fuck? I've just completely blanked what her name is, right? But she's like, what the fuck is that behind the curtain? And oh, it's not even her, is it? It's the dog, Toto. Dorothy, there we go. Toto goes to the curtain and pulls it across, and there's the little bloke behind the scenes, you know, making the big scary wizard appear there. This is the scene that I'm seeing when I'm looking at this. It's like you can see the mechanics of that overthinking. And you're seeing it and you're looking at it in disbelief. And, yeah, you're looking at, you know, the overthinking, the panic, the terror, all of the things that you associate with the Nine of Swords. And there's just this little dude behind the curtain here who's now freaking out because you can see him. It's that kind of revelation. Let's pull some more cards on this. Tell me about the Nine of Swords, please. Holy fucking shitballs. I'm going to take that as a massive confirmation. Now, this could play out in lots and lots of different ways, right? We could be talking about the anxiety that you have about being seen. We could be talking about the anxiety that you have around being considered to be good at something. We could see the anxiety that you have just around about doing something new, right? And in the exposure of that, we've got the wizard, the magician behind the illusion. It's like, oh fuck, well actually I can just totally do what I want. Now, I don't feel like this is just going to drop into your lap. I don't think you're just going to wake up one morning at some point in April and be just like, holy shit, I can see behind the curtain. Something's going to set this off. And we'll probably get into that more in the extended. Something's going to set it off. Yeah, something's definitely going to set it off. Now, this is going to be a situation, or it might be a person, but yeah, Taurus, it's a fucking end. It's an end. There is something very specific that has been holding you back in terms of there being something within you that has been holding you back. And maybe you haven't been able to articulate exactly what that is. You haven't been able to put it into words. It's just been a feeling that's been gnawing at you. This month, you see what it is. Now, I did a reading for you a couple of months ago. Can't even remember what it was now. I think it might have been Christmas. That was called You Are Unstoppable, and This Is Why. And if you haven't seen that, maybe you should go back and re-watch it for this, because Because what seems to be happening here is a recognition of exactly that. Like we've got a tying up of what has held you back in the past before, right? A perspective that you have held that, look at this, I mean, we've got 3 decks and we've got 3 9 of Swords all coming out here together with the 10 of Swords, which is an end. You know, it's yeah, a recognition of what has held you back this entire time. And in the recognition of that, there's the key that takes you through a doorway to the next part of your life. This is strong. This is really strong, because this Knight of Wands here, like I said, so different to your energy, but so bold, so adventurous. So, you know, if you want a card of an archetype that would really put themselves out there, this is going to be the Knight of Wands all day long. There are opportunities, there are possibilities showing up for you, and we're definitely going to look into that in the extended, whether they show up immediately or whether there is a readiness for those, because the Knight of Wands is always ready. You know, it doesn't have much of a lead time, the Knight of Wands. It can literally just go, be gone. But when it comes to this idea of changing your life, I feel like there's something really fucking dramatic coming in here for you. And it is the recognition that you are ready for it now. You know, in a lot of ways, Taurus, you have outgrown yourself. Just like I was talking about the tarantula, like you're just shedding that exoskeleton, and it's like, I'm ready to be Goliath now. Like, oh, I need to go and get locusts for my lizard. From the local exotic pet shop, there was a Goliath spider in the taxidermied one on the wall. This thing was fucking massive. It was like this, and it's that kind of, you know, you expect it to rattle the table when it takes a step. It's big. It's very, very big. For some of you, this might involve a move. Right? You might be like, fuck this place. I don't even know why I'm staying here. I'm going. And if it is a move, it's not to, you know, a slightly bigger or slightly smaller house down the street. I mean, this is something big. This is moving across state. This is perhaps emigrating to a different country, right? This is going from one end of the country to the other, possibly. It could be something else entirely. It could be, I fuck working for people. I'm going to set up my own business. It could be, fuck doing anything. I'm going traveling. You know, like when the Knight of Wands is here with the Magician, it doesn't feel to me like there's anything off the table. Now, like I said, it might be that these specific things that will end up being the way in which you change your life don't necessarily show up in April, but there's a cascading set of realizations that will come from the curtain being pulled aside that is going to have you living very differently. I think your life is going to be unrecognizable by Christmas compared to where you are right now when you are watching this video. That's the level, the magnitude of the changes that you are bringing in. And if those are purely internal in April, it's not going to take long for those to start showing up outside of you, because you are sovereign and you're taking these steps, you're making these moves. Every little move that you have made so far internally has had a corresponding shift outside of you. You're moving in power now, Taurus, and I think you're about to show everybody what that actually looks like. Because gone is the time of Taurus keeping themselves small. Gone is the time of Taurus being ruled by any kind of fear about anything. You feel to me to be completely fearless, as you should be, because you're fucking magnificent. This is throwing off the last of what is holding you back. Such confidence, such resolve. Woe betide anybody who gets in your way, is what I would say. This is absolutely fascinating, Taurus, as your readings always are. I love your readings. So I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. If you want to join me over there, you are very welcome to do so. If you want to come join me on Circle, you're very welcome to do so. Always welcome. Love my bull gang. I'm so impressed with this right now, I really am. But if neither of those are of interest to you, that's absolutely fine. Also, there is no judgment from me here on that. But when this Nine of Swords comes, everything that you have learned up until this point, like everything that you have been working on in the last 3 years, and it is 3 years, Taurus, certainly that I've been with you while you've been working on these things. January 2020, everything started to change for Taurus. When this Nine of Swords comes, maybe it comes from 3 different angles. It might not just be one thing, it might be a whole confluence of things together. Recognize it for what it is. It is an opportunity, and it's a huge opportunity. We're breaking patterns, we're breaking cycles, and rather than shrinking back against this, it's time to start stomping your hooves. It's that big, and I'm here for it all day long. So know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.